All right, let's dive into something you might have seen but perhaps never really thought deeply about. Toenail fungus. We've been digging into some source material here that suggests this isn't just, a minor annoyance or a cosmetic issue. It can actually signal or lead to some potentially serious health implications.
And what's really eye-opening from these sources is how a condition medically known as onychomycosis can be a surprising indicator,
Hmm.
or maybe even a driver of broader health concerns.
Exactly.
We're going to explore why this seemingly small issue can matter much, much more than most people realize.
Yeah, our goal in this deep dive is really to peel back the layers, understand the hidden risks, identify who's most vulnerable,
Hmm.
and look at the different strategies the sources discuss for dealing with it, including some, pretty interesting insights into natural interventions.
Right.
We're pulling out the essential information you need to be genuinely well-informed on this.
Okay.
So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is toenail fungus, and how does it get started?
Well, the material we looked at explains it typically begins when these microscopic organisms, like specific types of fungi, you've got the common dermatophytes.
Like trichophyton rubrum, I saw that mentioned.
That's the one. Trichophyton rubrum, T. mentagrophytes, even some yeasts like Candida species,
Oh.
they find their way into the nail bed.
How? Like through cracks?
Yeah, often through tiny cracks or, separations between the nail and the skin.
And you might wonder, why feet? Why are they such a common target?
Good question. The sources point out these fungi absolutely thrive in warm, moist environments. So think about your feet.
Stuck in shoes all day.
Exactly. Enclosed in shoes for hours. The infection usually starts subtly, maybe just at the edge of the nail, and then slowly, almost imperceptibly, works its way deeper towards the root.
That slow progression, that's a key detail the source material really emphasizes, isn't it?
It is. Unlike, say, a bacterial infection that might flare up quickly, this is kind of a long game the fungus plays.
Right. It might just look like a little white or yellow spot under the tip of the nail at first. It's very subtle. But then as it spreads, the nail starts changing color. You mentioned yellow, brown, maybe even darker.
Yeah, the color changes. It gets thicker, crumbly, brittle.
It can start lifting, creating pockets.
Right, lifting from the nail bed, creating those little pockets you mentioned. And it can potentially spread, jump to other nails or even the skin.
And this gradual, often painless start, that's precisely what allows people to kind of overlook it or put off getting help.
Exactly. And that delay, as the sources detail, well, that can lead to a cascade of hidden health complications.
Okay, complications. Like what?
One of the most significant concerns mentioned is the risk of secondary bacterial infections.
Ah, right. Those pockets under the lifting nail you talked about?
Precisely. The material we reviewed highlights that these damaged, separated areas are perfect entry points for bacteria.
So a fungal thing can turn bacterial.
It can. And that can escalate quickly from, say, a skin infection like cellulitis, which can be pretty widespread, to even deeper tissue infections.
Wow. Requiring hospitalization, maybe?
Potentially. Needing hospitalization, IV antibiotics. It can get serious.
And this is where it becomes particularly critical for certain groups, I imagine.
Absolutely. The sources make it really clear that for individuals with compromised immune systems or conditions like diabetes,
Okay.
these secondary bacterial infections aren't just a step up in severity, they can actually become life-threatening.
Why is that?
Well, their body's ability to fight infection is already hindered, right? And poor circulation, which is common in diabetes, means infections can spread rapidly and are much, much harder to get under control.
And it's not just contained to the original toenail either, is it? The source material points out the fungus it can jump.
It can spread, yeah, to other toenails, to the skin on the foot, causing athlete's foot,
Oh, right.
even the groin area, resulting in jock itch. And in folks with really weakened immunity, it could potentially become systemic.
Systemic, like affecting organs.
Potentially affecting internal organs, yes.
Yeah.
That's a serious scenario, obviously more rare, but a risk for certain people.
And beyond just the direct medical risks, what about everyday life?
Yeah, the sources also discuss the profound impact on daily life and overall well-being. Think about it. Painful, thickened, or deformed nails.
Makes walking difficult, I bet. Shoes must be uncomfortable.
Exactly. It makes walking, wearing shoes difficult. This can lead to people becoming less physically active, which then contributes to muscle weakness, balance issues.
And falls, especially for older adults.
An increased risk of falls, particularly in older adults, yes. It's a real concern.
And it's not just the physical burden, is it? The material highlights a significant psychological toll, too.
That's right. The appearance of infected nails can cause real embarrassment.
Leading to social isolation, maybe. Lower self-esteem.
Absolutely. Social isolation, decreased self-esteem, and the sources even mention it can contribute to feelings of depression and anxiety. It really affects quality of life.
Okay, so given all these potential complications, who really needs to be particularly vigilant here? The sources called out several groups.
Yeah, definitely. For individuals living with diabetes, the sources underscore this is a particularly serious matter.
Why specifically diabetes?
Well, as we touched on, diabetes affects both circulation and immune function, making it incredibly challenging for the body to fend off infections.
Okay.
Then you add in diabetic neuropathy. That's the reduced sensation many diabetics experience in their feet.
So they might not even feel it if it's getting bad.
Exactly. Complications like fungal infections, secondary bacterial issues, they can progress quite significantly before they're even noticed.
Wow. And that combination dramatically increases the risk of severe problems.
Like diabetic foot ulcers, yeah. And potentially, in the worst cases, amputation. It's a major concern in diabetic foot care.
Okay, what other groups? You mentioned weakened immune systems.
Right. The research we reviewed is also very clear about individuals with weakened immune systems. This could be due to conditions like HIV, or medications like those taken after an organ transplant, or even treatments like chemotherapy.
And for them, it's a bigger risk.
A much bigger risk. For these individuals, what might be a, manageable infection in a healthy person can rapidly become a serious medical emergency.
So faster progression, harder to treat.
Higher risk of rapid progression, poor response to treatment, and those systemic complications we talked about.
Okay. And what about just getting older?
Well, yeah, looking at the broader picture, age itself is a factor. As we get older, there are natural changes. Nails grow differently. Circulation often isn't quite as robust.
Immune function might decline a bit.
Exactly. Immune function can decline slightly. Plus, add to that potential difficulties just with, basic foot and nail care.
Bending down, seeing clearly.
Right. All that makes older adults more vulnerable, both to developing the fungal infection in the first place and to experiencing more severe complications if they do get it.
So, understanding all these potential issues, what did the sources say is absolutely critical? Sounds like catching it early.
Early recognition and intervention. That was the key message.
Okay, let's run through those warning signs and material listed. What should people look out for? Things like small white or yellow spots under the nail tip.
Yes, that's often the very first sign.
Gradual thickening of the nail. Color changes, yellow, brown, dark.
Right. Any significant color change.
Crumbly or brittle texture, a distorted shape.
Yeah, the texture and shape can definitely change.
The nail separating from the nail bed, we talked about that.
That lifting, yes. Onycholysis is the term.
Or a foul odor.
Mm-hmm.
Or just pain or discomfort around the nail.
Any of those. Yeah. Pain isn't always present early on, but it can develop. Foul odor is definitely a red flag.
So why is catching it early so crucial? You mentioned a window of opportunity.
Yes. The sources call it the window of opportunity, and it's a really powerful concept. Catching the fungus at the very first signs before it's really dug in deep.
Makes a huge difference.
A massive difference. Early stage infections are just much more responsive to treatment. Often, simpler topical applications can work.
As opposed to later.
Right. As the fungus burrows deeper and really changes the nail structure, treatment becomes significantly harder. It takes much longer, and you might need more aggressive methods.
So acting promptly helps you avoid all that later stuff.
Exactly. Avoid that later, more complex, more difficult scenario.
Okay, so the sources we explored also talked quite a bit about natural intervention strategies. What kind of approach does this involve?
Well, the material discusses using topical natural treatments. The idea is to create an environment on and around the nail that's hostile to the fungus.
Okay.
It highlights specific natural ingredients with well-documented antifungal properties. Things like essential oils were mentioned quite a bit.
Which ones?
Tea tree oil, oregano oil, thyme oil were specifically called out. These compounds have been shown to have pretty broad spectrum activity against the types of fungi usually responsible.
Interesting. But it's not just about applying things topically, is it? The sources also mention supporting overall health.
Yes, supporting health from within, systemically. This includes nutritional approaches.
Like cutting back on sugar.
Reducing sugar and refined carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Also, incorporating probiotics to support a healthy gut microbiome.
Which connects to immunity.
Exactly. And ensuring sufficient intake of immune-supporting nutrients. Vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C were mentioned.
And what about lifestyle stuff?
Yeah, connecting this to the bigger picture, lifestyle plays a crucial role too. The material emphasizes maintaining excellent foot hygiene,
Keeping feet dry.
keeping feet as dry as possible, choosing breathable footwear, changing socks regularly.
Even things like antifungal sprays in shoes.
Yes, and ensuring good ventilation in your home, especially bathrooms or places you might walk barefoot. It's about controlling the environment.
Okay, let's dig a bit into the science the sources presented. How exactly do some of these natural compounds, like the essential oils, actually work against the fungus?
What's really fascinating here is the multi-pronged approach described in the material. Essential oils, for example, don't just have one way of working. They can disrupt the fungal cell membrane itself, they can interfere with the fungus's metabolic processes, and even prevent it from sticking to the nail or skin.
So they attack it from multiple angles.
Exactly. This multi-target strategy is highlighted as beneficial because it makes it harder for the fungus to develop resistance, which can be an issue with some single-target drugs.
Right.
The sources even mention some combinations of essential oils showing effectiveness comparable to certain prescription medications, sometimes with added benefits like anti-inflammatory properties.
But there's an obvious challenge, isn't there? The nail itself. It's a pretty tough barrier. How do these active ingredients actually get through it to where the infection is?
That is a critical question, and the material definitely addresses it. It's all about effective delivery.
So how do you solve that?
The sources discuss advanced formulation techniques, using things called penetration enhancers, specialized delivery systems,
Yeah.
basically ways to help active ingredients get through that dense nail plate to the infection underneath.
Okay, so it's not just about having the right oil, it's about getting it there.
Precisely. As an example of this approach, the material mentions products, like Cure Essentials oil was one named,
Right.
which are specifically formulated to combine multiple proven ingredients like tea tree oil for the antifungal part, maybe lavender oil for soothing properties, in a blend designed to penetrate the nail and work synergistically.
So the strength is in the science behind the blend and the delivery.
Exactly. The scientific approach to creating a blend that can actually reach the target effectively. That's key.
Okay, so what if someone doesn't catch it early? If they overlook those signs and let the infection progress, what are the potential long-term consequences the sources describe?
Yeah, the sources are quite blunt about this. Allowing the infection to become severe can cause permanent structural damage
To the nail itself.
to the nail matrix. That's the area where the nail actually grows from back of the case.
Wow. Okay.
Damage there can lead to a permanently altered appearance and texture of the nail, even after the fungus is eventually cleared.
So the nail might never look the same.
It might not. And in the most severe cases, the nail might be so damaged that surgical removal is considered the only option left.
Wow. Plus, the material points out that advanced cases mean treatment just gets way more complex, right?
Far more complex. You might be looking at systemic medications taken orally.
Which can have more side effects.
Potentially more side effects, yes. Or needing combination therapies, maybe even surgery, as we mentioned. All of which means more cost, more time, more hassle.
Then recurrence, is that more likely?
That's another key point. Once an infection is deeply established, it can actually change the underlying tissue, which significantly increases the risk of the infection coming back, even after a successful treatment.
So you might need ongoing management.
Potentially requiring ongoing management just to keep it at bay. It becomes a chronic issue for some.
Okay, so considering all this, the sources strongly emphasize prevention as the first line of defense.
Absolutely. Prevention is truly your first and best bet. This involves controlling that environment the fungus loves.
So good hygiene, keeping feet dry.
Maintaining good hygiene, keeping feet dry, avoiding walking barefoot in public pools or locker rooms, regularly cleaning your shoes and socks.
Making sure your feet and home have good air circulation.
Exactly. Environmental control is huge.
And the material also suggests being proactive, like checking your feet.
Yeah, proactive monitoring, like doing a weekly self-examination of your feet and nails. Just take a quick look. Or if you're in one of those higher risk groups, maybe getting professional checks periodically.
And supporting your immune system generally.
Definitely. Supporting your overall immune system through good nutrition, regular exercise, managing stress, getting enough sleep, maybe supplementing with specific nutrients if needed. It all plays a role in helping your body prevent infections from taking hold in the first place.
Okay, so thinking about intervention again, this brings up an important question. When are these natural approaches we discussed most likely to be effective? Is there a sweet spot?
Yes. The sources describe the sweet spot as being right at the very first signs of infection. before it has become deep-seated.
So when it's still superficial.
Exactly.
Hmm.
At this early stage, the fungal load is lower, the nail structure isn't as compromised, which means topical treatments have much better penetration.
And a better chance of working quickly.
A much greater chance of a fast or complete response, yeah. That early window is key for natural approaches.
And the sources also noted that the most successful strategies often aren't just one thing, right? It's more of a combined approach.
That came through strongly. The most successful approaches frequently combine those topical treatments we talked about with supporting the body systemically through diet, maybe supplements, and making those important environmental and lifestyle changes.
So it's like a comprehensive strategy.
Multi-pronged strategy, exactly. Addressing the problem from different angles seems to be most effective.
There's also a powerful point made in the source material about the cost of doing nothing or waiting too long.
Yeah, the cost of inaction, the financial toll, expensive treatments, multiple doctor visits, but also the personal toll.
Impact on mobility, quality of life.
Exactly. All of that far outweighs the cost and effort involved in early detection and intervention. Acting early saves a lot down the road.
So, based on everything we've learned from this material, how can you make informed choices if you do see those early signs? What should you look for?
Well, the sources suggest looking for solutions that are actually backed by some science, checking for high-quality products.
From reputable companies.
From reputable manufacturers, yes. Products that contain clinically studied ingredients, ideally in effective concentrations.
So do your homework a bit.
Understand the ingredients, understand the scientific rationale behind why that particular formulation might work. That helps you make an informed choice.
All right, let's try to wrap this up. Let's recap the key takeaways from this deep dive. We've definitely seen that toenail fungus is, well, it's way more than just a cosmetic issue.
Absolutely. It's a progressive condition with the potential for some really serious health complications.
Especially for those vulnerable populations like people with diabetes or weakened immune systems.
And the sources we examined make a really compelling case that early recognition and prompt intervention are absolutely critical.
Right. Catch it early.
And they highlight that natural strategies, especially when you're talking about advanced formulations designed for penetration,
Getting through the nail.
and combining those topical approaches with systemic support and environmental changes, that offers a promising path, particularly when addressed early on.
Yeah, as the source material essentially frames it, the choice is pretty stark, isn't it? It's either relatively simple, effective management when you catch it early
Right.
versus complex, prolonged, and potentially damaging therapy if you wait too long.
Well said.
So if you're seeing those early signs we talked about, the time to consider taking action is definitely now.
And looking at the bigger picture, maybe you remember that powerful concluding thought from the sources. Your nails aren't just cosmetic. They're important indicators of your overall health status.
That's a great point.
Paying attention to changes and protecting them early is truly an investment in your long-term well-being. It makes you think, doesn't it? What really stands out to you about how something seemingly small, like a change in a toenail, can actually be a signal to pay closer attention to your health as a whole?